And if we say animals can't suffer, so we shouldn't give them rights, then my con evidence explains why that type of logic leads to extinction.
Okay. All right, I'll take that. Seems like everything comes from extinction.
Right to tell you, dude. Like, this is how I debate. Everyone knows it.
I've never debated you before.
That's true.
You know, trying to figure shit out. I'm like Drew, except stupider.
I know, that's pretty hard.
Terrible. What? I love that kid. What happens when the rules under a rule you conflict?
Do you want to know how I'd answer that argument? I have like a pretty extensive front line to it. Let me see.
Okay. Is it in the AC?
No. The first answer would be that rule consequentialism resolves conflicts by evaluating the strengths and the moral aversions associated with taking either action. And also there would be an argument as to why it doesn't cripple rule consequentialism as an ethical theory. Then I would say that what the rule you isolate probably isn't a rule. Because the AC specifically derives its form of rule consequentialism from moral coherence, and my evidence says that the only ethical theory that coheres is rule consequentialism that focuses on maximizing expected well-being. So I don't know how there could be conflicting rules.
Why do we need to give them rights?
Who, animals?
Yeah, those guys.
I mean, there are a few arguments in the AC why we need to give them rights.
Right, no, I understand we need to protect them and, like, animals are suffering and all that stuff.
Are you asking for, like, why your animal welfare counterpoint doesn't solve for the AF?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, the con evidence explains by rights itself are key, so you wouldn't solve for that portion of the AF.
So that's con, that's
you
what
haven't.
you guys.
No, and the top of the AC would be extended as a reason why my AF gives animals the right to welfare, right? My right that I give them is the right to well-being, more specifically the right to be counted in our calculations of well-being, right? So I'm giving
right?
that would just be a reason why your counterpoint is not competitive. It's a right as contextualized by the framework. This is like pretty clear at the top of the AF, where I read a definition from Merriam-Webster about animal rights that says that rights are fair and humane treatment belonging fundamentally on animals. Then I explain why fair and humane treatment requires a ethical framework, right? So my ethical framework contextualizes what fair and humane treatment for animals would be, and that fair and humane treatment is giving them a right to well-being.
Okay.
But you can like read it if you want.
I'm fine. I think it's a good argument.
I do too, that's why I frontlined it.
Excellent.
Me too.
Yeah, of course you do.
Dude, I have like a pretty extensive few reasons why the aspects are nice.
Over here.
Same. I don't know why. I'm so tired.
Someone flip a coin.
I have a problem.
It's too late. I've already read the AC.
Anything else that I can use? Oh, this. 5 thoughts.
Are you gonna read all of that?
Yes.
Chill.
Oh no, we both know only you can do that.
I don't think I can read. If you're just getting organized, you can stop prep. I don't want to be like a jerk.
Yeah, well, I put it on file, so. Stupid. Alright, now we're done. So, I have like 23 left. I'm gonna organize quickly.
Go for it. unlike Josh Tupper, I don't have like unreasonably high expectations for how your preparation should be formatted.
Does that actually happen?
Yeah, he was like, Noah, I want you to put this all in one document for me, and I want there to be page breaks between every argument. I was like, fine, I'll put in one document, but I'm not doing page breaks.
Our time lasted like 20 minutes.
It wasn't my fault though. Like I'm prepared to jump people things and I do it pretty quickly, but Josh had like
He got upset because they weren't in order.
yeah, I was like, my bad, dude.
Okay. I think I have everything I need here.
Alright, will you flip pages?
Gigantic stack. Yes.
How many off?
Cool. Let's think about that. Alright, running an NC counterplan, the counterplan, and Stacy.
So two.
NC and then counterclaim?
Yes.
Yes.
I also have paper.
Okay, there.
Awesome.
Hi.
Before we start, as soon as you guys are done, can you do the critiques in the hallway or just get out of the room?
Yeah.
Will do.
Yeah. Alright. You ready?
Yep.
I need to before we determine what justice demands in terms of right, we must understand what rights are. Rights operate as trumps utility. Dworkin. Rights are trumps over the community as a whole. Or for someone as a right, this means that it is for some reason wrong to act in violation of that right. Even the community as a whole would be better off if it did. For this definition, for two reasons. One, the philosophical literature regarding rights utilizes this definition. Weiner explains in the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy that there might be disputes with the function of rights. Most agree that rights have special norm force. Rights are particularly powerful weighty reasons which from some social aims that might be served by doing otherwise. How rights become to be the special norm force is matter of ongoing scholarly inquiry. The only broad consensus that they do. Two, the animal rights literature uses and requires distinction to make a sense of animal welfare, animal rights distinction. Reagan and Francione. There are fundamental differences between animal welfare and animal rights. Animal rights rest in the condition that rest in the recognition that the moral inviolability of the non-humans. Their goal is the total liberation of animals from human tyranny. Animal welfare, by contrast, believe that it is morally permissible to use non-humans for the human benefit, but think that humans should minimize suffering. Thus, welfare is seeking to reform current practices while retaining the essential exploitation principle. Meanwhile, rights advocates seek to abolish all exploitation. Thus, recognizing animal rights gives animals claims that can't be sacrificed, even the consequences would be desirable. So the question is whether animals have moral status, but it just demands that they have rights, meaning my burden is to prove that animals should have trumps on interests. My thesis and sole contention is that animals cannot have trumps because their interests should not be exempt from the utilitarian calculus. Subpoint A. Questions of policy implementation must be valid in terms of utilitarianism. Waller. Appeals to a pro principles fail to acknowledge that public policy narrowly tailored trade-offs to public policy inherently apply when religious policy makers to demonstrate that policies are relevant on the overall event of society. A pro principles do not themselves suggest appropriate public policy. They create a regimen of reasonableness while failing to adequately address the problem, making worse. And the resolution of question policy because regardless of the affirmative and generations of rights, well, you know what, whatever. He agrees this is true. Utilitarianism is true because these medicine of resolvability justice finding the AC is giving each their due. Different theories of justice requires non-questioning meta standards that are arbitrary between different ethical theories. The meta standards of resolvability, the capacity for justice for the theory of justice requires action. Justice may serve as an absolute guide for action for two reasons. First is that when people ask basic questions like what I do, they must get a non-contradictory answer. Justice must be able to resolve conflicts consistently. Thus, justice involves in moral islands because individuals will be left in moral vacuums where value does not exist. And even if justice would not evolve into moral islands, it would still be followed since the justice would not have reliably guided action. Justice equates prescriptive force through the capacity and motivates people to follow it. If individuals cannot expect justice to guide action, therefore to not do it, then its abstract validity is meaningless. And you might just be saying, why is he arguing the same firm because he is? I'm not. I'm actually just like maximizing consequentialism, whereas he's arguing real consequentialism. Real consequentialism is not good in terms of resolvability because there are some rules that people, in terms of the seconds of B point about people won't follow justice if it's real consequentialism because there's some rules that would be created, that, especially the ones that he's talking about, that wouldn't be followed. In other words, if we all as humans came together to decide that if it was either us or the animals, we would first of all not be able to violate the rule of actually of hurting the animals because they can suffer, which is like the 90 million. We can't kill the 90 million marine creatures, but we also can't follow the rule of killing ourselves in order to save the other animals, and so which means that there'd be contradictory rules under real consequentialism because there's some things that people just won't do if justice is supposed to be action guiding, like eliminating ourselves as a species, which means that even real consequentialism, which has specific rules in which you ought not do, you ought not kill other humans, you ought not you might cause suffering for other animals, that you'd still not do that even under real consequentialism, whereas under act consequentialism you say, whatever, we gotta do whatever we gotta do. Minimize suffering, stuff like that. Alright, outer plan. A is the text. Animal rights should be protected from harm is a matter of animal welfare, not animal rights. B, competition. One, per the topicality argument, or not really topicality, the definitional argument, animal rights cannot demand that both the abolition of animal exploitation, but animal welfare is more flexible and utilitarian notion. The AC cannot happen under both the rights and justification because they're contradictory. If the one A affirms the counterplan that is proof of abuse of my non-topical standard. Ignore that part. Two, net benefits. I don't give animals rights, so I uniquely harm I avoid the unique harm that comes from the recognition of specifically rights. Then, C, solvency. Animal rights are needed to protect animals from harm. Cup. Despite the failure of animal rights arguments, public interest in humane treatment of animals had probably never been stronger. Animal welfare issues are part of the public domain like never before. Over a decade ago, over 7 states have felony animal cruelty statutes. Currently, 41 have adopted felony cruelty statutes. Several states have enhanced the process of enhancing prohibitions on cockfighting. At least 30 states were considered restrictions on puppy mills under the